Welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast, presented by Excelsior Music Publishing and Premier Music Teaching Aids. This is episode number 325, and I'm honored to be here with Frank Ticheli. Frank, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for spending the time. How's California weather these days? We're just before New Year's as we're as
Let
we're
me look out the
recording.
window. It's raining again. We've had more rain than you can imagine. It's going to rain on the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl, 100%. So, and I think it's only happened something like 3 times in the 100+ year history of the Rose Parade.
Mm,
This is going to be one of those times, no question.
what a
But we
bummer.
need the rain. We need the rain, so it's a good thing.
As I was telling you off air, Frank, I've listened to and seen some of your published works and answering questions and things like that. So I'm going to attempt to not rehash those same questions, and our audience of band directors hopefully will glean a lot from your knowledge.
And I'll try not to somehow go on a side track where I do repeat those answers because that can happen.
Do we need a code word? You want a code word
Yeah,
for
right. Yeah. Code
or
word rest. Okay, that'll be the
rest,
code word
rest.
rest.
Okay. Advice you might have for younger composers, people who are kind of just starting out or looking for some advice for somebody of your stature.
Just starting out. Um, so there's a couple of things that I think are really important when you're just starting. Number one is you just have to compose as much as you can. It's more about the process than the result when you're first starting out. You shouldn't judge your music at all, really, in a negative way. It's just a process. And so it's important to just start writing. I recommend writing from instruments that you know well, perhaps your own instrument, perhaps write for your friends, because that's the second thing. It's really important that you hear your music played back by people. That you'll learn more from that than any book, any teacher. And studying scores, nothing will teach you more than hearing your music played back. You'll learn from your mistakes. Oh, this is terrible. I won't do this again. But that bar was amazing. I could make a whole piece just on that bar right there. It was so cool sounding. You learn from your mistakes and your successes. And so, of course, you learn more from your mistakes. So you actually kind of have to celebrate and embrace the flaws in your music when you're first starting. You have to write, basically, to become a good composer, you have to write a lot of bad music. That's the one true thing. Of course, the other thing is you do want to have a teacher at some point, someone who has more experience than you, whom you can learn from and who can help steer you. And and then the third thing I do is, of course, we all composers, we do a lot of listening. You have to listen a lot, and not just to music in your sphere, not, for example, not just band music if you're a band composer, and not just music from a particular period, but from as as many different historical periods as possible, and that includes also popular music, jazz, anything you can learn from world music. Just learn. There's so much of the music that's out there is not even written down. In fact, probably the majority, maybe the vast majority of the world's music is actually not notated. And so we as classical musicians, we tend to focus on the notated music from our traditions, but don't close your mind to all that other rich um, array of music that's not written down, that's just done orally.
A couple questions that are geared towards band directors, maybe rather than composers, or on maybe a combination. There's a lot of band directors like myself who have spent decades, working on scores like your own and all these things. And then at some point they figure out, I want to compose a little bit too, but I maybe haven't had quote unquote composition lessons. I've had a lot of composers tell me that band directors know way more than they think they do because of all their years of studying scores. So maybe some advice you might have for the average band director who wants to start composing using their knowledge.
Um, well, here's another thing then. I just mentioned listening to music is very important, but listening with score and and then finding your favorite, like let's find your what are the pieces that excite you the most? What are the pieces that maybe helped you, inspired you to become a musician, and why? Listen to those pieces with score. Find those passages that are especially magical to you and make a piano reduction of them. Maybe it won't fit on 2 staves. Maybe make it on 3 staves, 4, 5 staves, but reduce it down and learn from that. And then you can see, now I see why, maybe you see something behind the notes that is causing you to be so inspired and so moved by the music. It's sort of like an auto mechanic, and this I am repeating myself because I talk about this analogy all the time. To become a licensed mechanic, you've got to take an engine apart, an automobile engine apart, and put it back together again. You've got to be able to do that. We don't do that enough as musicians. So taking a piece apart by reducing it down to a piano stage, so you can play it badly at the piano, whatever. Or if you don't play piano at all, you can at least sing individual parts. You can just look at it, analyze it. Whatever you do can do to make you to grow your awareness of what's going on there. And then you kind of put it back together again with the full score, and you reconcile what you've reduced with the score. Now do that again 10 times with 10 different pieces. I guarantee you, if you'll stick to that and do maybe 20 bar excerpts, 24 bar excerpt, do that 10 times, 10 different, maybe it's Mahler, maybe there's a Bartok, maybe there's a Stravinsky, maybe there's a jazz piece. Do 10 pieces, excerpts from them. I guarantee you by the end of those 10 pieces, you will be a better composer. Because we have to start out in a way through modeling. You can't just start creating original music in a vacuum. We start out by modeling from those composers who are especially meaningful to us. So that's a piece of advice I have for composers who are conductors who are trying to compose.
That answer was very similar to what Clark Terry would always say about improvising. The first step
That's right.
is always imitation.
That's absolutely right. It's the first step. We have to leave that at some point. You can't live your life just modeling, but you have to start out that way.
So for a lot of band directors, they go to these symposiums, conducting symposiums, and I know you've been on a lot of these where you've helped people. Over the years, think about the average band director that comes in, they're taking a couple of weeks out of their summer to then spend time on their conducting. What's some of the feedback you find yourself giving the most often? And I have a story to share as part of it as well.
So these are specifically just conducting workshops you're talking about. Yeah. It's like a broken record. Having the courage to be the music, not just beating time, which of course that's a cliche. We all know that. And yet young conductors still just do that. And so we have to keep repeating that cliche because it has to be repeated. Just to be the music with every cell in every fiber in your being, your face, the way you speak, the way you're moving. It needs to reflect what the music is. Is it angry? Is it sad? Is it joyous? Is it deeply personal? Is it public music? Is it private music? How do you show those things? Private music, you bring it closer to your face. Public music, you can be more out there in public. Anything you can think of to reflect the music, to embody the music, because that's the easiest way to get your interpretation across to the players, because you can show it without talking about it. And talking is one of the worst things, of course, for a conductor to do. You have to communicate without talking all the time. And then even when you talk, before anything comes out of my mouth, I try to ask myself, okay, Frank, is what I'm about to say going to simply instruct the players, or will it also inspire the players? And so when I've got something I'm about to say, to convey, I don't just say, trumpets, play that louder. Can I do that in a way that will inspire them more rather than just play it louder? Maybe you say some reason why they need to be louder. You're so important here because we're in the bridge and you are foreshadowing the main theme. You're giving us little hints of the main theme. We need to hear that because the main theme's about to come back. Or oboe, bring out this dissonance. Well, that's just instructing. Why are they bringing out the dissonance? What kind of dissonance is it? Is it an angry dissonance, a sad dissonance, a humorous dissonance, right? Dissonance can be funny. What kind of dissonance is it? Then that helps them understand, not to just bring it out. It helps them understand why they're bringing it out. They're more inspired to bring something of themselves to it. I'm not just bringing out this dissonance, but I'm going to make it more, I'm going to create more pathos to it, or more anger to it, or more humor with it. It inspires them to bring something of themselves to the dissonance when they're bringing it. So I could come up with 100 different things like this where we can do something beyond just instructing. And so when we have time, I think that's really important. But getting back to your question, it's really about young conductors being afraid to show the music, especially here.
Yeah,
You
the
know, you see
face.
so many conductors, you know, they feel it, you know, they've got it, but they're just, oh, here comes my favorite spot. There it was. That was great. And they don't show anything, but they're feeling it. And I don't know why that happens, but I know one thing. There comes if you just start doing it, start showing, because I know young conductors are often intimidated. They feel shy and they feel like they're just self-conscious, right? There comes a point, if you just start doing it, there comes a point when you will feel uncomfortable not showing the music on the face. At first, you're uncomfortable showing it, but there does come a point. I don't know when it happens. There just comes a point when you feel weird and uncomfortable not showing what the music is on your face and in
I,
your body. So that anyway, that's my advice.
well, the minute you started speaking, I thought of I think about middle school band directors, high school band directors,
Yeah.
you know, because we're so often listening. I mean, the hardest thing is, okay, especially for younger teachers, okay, I'm listening to a band. Okay, can I hear what's wrong? Do I know how to fix it? Do I know how to make it like all those things are really stinking hard. So then we're not even thinking about our own conducting. So that whole like spending time thinking about your own facial work, I think that's fabulous. I know why people don't do it because
Yeah.
it's really hard when you're trying to find all the problems.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. But there also comes a time when you're not thinking about embodying the music. It just happens naturally. If you do it enough, we as human beings, we are creatures of habit, right? Habits form. And good habits can form just through repetition. So just doing a lot. I mean, there comes a point when you don't think about, you learn, you know, floor, window, door, ceiling, all that stuff. You learn that, but there comes a point you don't think about that anymore, ever. And it's the same here. You stop thinking about this. It just happens naturally. You don't want to fake it. If you're doing it in a, it, it, the players will immediately know if you're not doing this from some authentic, genuine place. It has to come from an organically natural, um, guttural place and deep inside of you so that you're not really thinking about it, but you're embodying it. It's a tricky thing, though. You're right.
There was a year my wife and I went to Eugene's collegium down at UNT, and I was a conducting participant, and Dennis was up top with all the dozens of people and all this, and I'm in front of the UNT Wind Symphony, and as a conductor from Maine, I think I was in my seventh or eighth year at that time. Obviously, a pretty nerve-wracking thing, and it
Right.
was really hot because it's June in Texas. And of course, I'm from Maine. I was like, June, let's play tennis. Well, of course, we didn't play tennis because it's June in Texas. And but to stay cool, the best shirt I had was this like a Hawaiian shirt, but it was completely white. It was the coolest shirt that I owned. So then I get up on the podium in all white.
Oh, nobody can see the
And
baton.
yeah, and Dennis Fisher just, you know, talks to everybody about how you don't want to do this. And I just look back at that and like being vulnerable to say, here I am, I'm going to work on my conducting. Somebody please help me. It was a great lesson for me.
Yeah. I remember one of my early times, I thought I was ready to do this and got up on the podium and the teacher said, Frank, could you maybe spit out your gum? So you never know what it's going to be,
Yeah.
right? And
The
yeah, you're right. If you're chewing your gum, that just doesn't, it's not going to work.
the guest person there was Alan McMurray that year. And I remember he was like put his arm around my shoulder and we're like dancing in front of the band. It was just classic Alan. Obviously, you know Alan really well.
Yeah.
I remember the story that he told us about his what was it his what is it when you take seven every 7 years you get a sabbatical, right? And he went
Sabbatical.
to New York and studied with a mime.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's great for him because that frees you from just this. And Alan, of course, he's probably one of the very best teachers of conducting on the planet. He is so good at teaching conducting. He's able to just zero in on exactly what the young conductor needs, find it, and find a way to help that conductor improve on the spot in the moment. I've never seen anything like
Mm.
him as a conducting teacher. He's amazing.
You know, it's funny. I think just the message of teachers thinking about their conducting is a huge message because so oftentimes we're thinking about everything else in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. But those summer workshops are helpful because they help to remind you. You have to do so much during the year, all this giving and giving, and then in the summer you get to be selfish and take and spend time on just yourself. and have people help you to become better at what you do. I think it's really important to balance that.
I think the advice that you gave is right on the spot because no matter what it is, if you're showing the music, then you're going to be an
Yeah.
effective conductor. The amount of times we
Yeah.
see people conducting double forte, right? And
Yeah.
this band's supposed to be soft. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah.
definitely that. I remember once when I was younger, someone, a teacher, in fact, I'll tell you who it was. It was H. Robert Reynolds. He said, Frank, he did it in a way that was a compliment, but I also knew there was more to it. He said, Frank, you are an excellent forte conductor. He says, but I think you conduct forte too often. And he was right about that. He helped me to understand because if you're always conducting forte, then it stops meaning anything. So, yeah, it's important to learn to conduct piano, to show piano music.
I have a question for you that was sent to me by another composer. Realizing that all of your music is personal and meaningful to you, which pieces are you most proud of, and are there any wish that you wish were played more often?
I like that last part. It's difficult to say these are my favorite pieces. I have said this a lot, so sorry, listeners, if you've heard this, but they are very much like children, and we all, as parents, we don't have usually we don't have a favorite child. We love all our children. They're like children to me. I nurtured them. They had a premiere. That's the birth. They go out and have a life. I love them all. Some of them do well. Some of them don't do as well, but I still love them all. There are a couple of older pieces that don't get as much play as they used to, and I would love to see them get more pieces like Postcard. I have another one called Gaian Visions. Nobody plays that hardly, but it's a really good piece, and I would love it to see more performance of that. A couple of my newer pieces. My newest one, Lux Perpetua, is getting a lot of play. Fantastic Dream seems to be taking off. But there's another one for younger. It's like, I don't know, grade 4 or grade 3.5. I don't know where it is. It's called Sailing the Sky. It's a pretty cool piece. And it doesn't get many performances at all. So that's one. Maybe there's another I can think of. There's another one I wrote. No, that's fine. Yeah, there's another one that I just can't. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll stick with Sailing the Sky. That's definitely one. I'm trying to think of pieces for younger musicians.
Sure.
Midnight. That's a piece for young musicians. I like it a lot. I think it's about a grade 2.5 to 3. And it's really fun to play, but it doesn't get that many performances.
I'm going to throw out a piece that is probably, the statistics, probably one of your most played piece. I don't know, but it's one of the most valuable pieces in the library that I've ever used from any composer. And that's Here, Take This Lovely Flower. And if people don't know it, Shaker Gift Song's the third movement from Simple Gifts. You can do as a standalone piece. But to have a grade 2, that's such beautiful music, that's, a slow tempo 6/8. There's so much in that little 2 minutes of music that is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that was my publisher's idea. When I published Simple Gifts, it was 4 movements, and that's the third movement. Here, take this lovely flower. And he said, Frank, we should publish this separately. He loved the movement. It is a beautiful tune, one of the oldest Shaker tunes. It's a beautiful melody, and so it was his idea, and I'm really happy that he thought of that because it does stand. I think it's published as a Shaker Gift Song. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And I'm happy that we did that. And so we took that same idea and we've expanded it to other things. Now there's Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound. That is a grade 2 version of my Amazing Grace, where I took out the middle section. So that's gone. I simplified things. I rescored things so that it's a grade 2, but it's very much the same piece as my original Amazing Grace, minus that. Now I can hear people right now saying, oh, you took out the best music, but it's also the most difficult music. If you're going to write something like Joy and Joy Revisited, right? Joy is an easier version of Joy Revisited. So it's the same principle. It doesn't hurt Amazing Grace. It doesn't hurt the piece. It's still there. If you want to play that, you do that. But for younger musicians, they now have a doorway, a portal into Amazing Grace so they can do it and it's playable for them and they can feel a sense of accomplishment. And then when they get a little older, they can do the original version.
So it
So I've
sounds
got
so.
several of those.
Yeah, you've taken some harder pieces and made them simpler. I have another composer who asked me to ask you this question as well. Do you ever have a thought process where you start to write a grade one or two, but it morphs into a three or four by the time you're finished? You
Oh,
ever
that happens
start
all
to
the
write
time.
early? Yeah.
That's a natural thing because when you start a piece, you're introducing ideas, and they're grade two ideas. Well, now what are you going to do? For me at least, I got to develop them. And when you start developing, bye bye grade two. Development sections just by nature tend to be a little more sophisticated and more elaborated is the word. And so it often goes up a grade. So if I've got a grade three commission, I start out writing grade two music because I know it's going to end up grade three. That's the way I get around this.
So you plan that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so many of your band works have become staples in the repertoire. You obviously have conducted these yourself many times. For people who maybe are working on them, could you take a couple of your more famous pieces and give us some conducting advice of those pieces? American Elegy, Portrait of a Clown, Four Shaker songs, Cajun folk songs, anything like that.
Yeah. So you started with American Elegy. One really important piece of advice is Alan McMurray again he and I together made this DVD, which is now available for free at my publisher's website. You can actually watch it if you go. I don't know where it is, but go to I think my website and my publisher's website, and you'll find it. And it's amazing. It was Alan's idea. It starts out with us talking a bit, me at the piano, playing American Elegy and talking through it. And this is what I was thinking about, and the whole thing is rising. It's like lifting its head all the time. American Elegy is like this gradual lifting of the head, and I show that at the piano. Then we skip to Alan, and it cuts away. The video cuts away to me and Alan talking about the same spot I just played at the piano. Alan with his score open, me with mine open. Then it goes to Alan rehearsing it. Then it goes back to me at the piano in another section. I love that's what you can do with videos, right? You can keep moving around. Goes to another section, me at the piano. Then it cuts away to me with Alan talking, and then Alan rehearsing. So it's a really eye-opening video of an American Elegy. So that's one. You mentioned Four Shaker songs. You mentioned what else did you mention?
Portrait of a Clown, classic. Love that
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
Except for
Well,
what is
I
it?
don't.
Is it letter C? We
Oh
always
yeah,
curse
right.
letter C. Yeah,
That's the development section
that's
again,
right.
right?
That's right.
But what people don't know is that tune comes from music that I had written for a play, a production of Moliere's Don Juan. It was an Ann Arbor theater production. I was just finishing my doctorate and got hired to write incidental music. And I wrote this. It was for the entrance of a young girl and a young boy onto the stage. And the music captures this sort of childlike energy. The girl is teasing the boy. So the boy's stomping, bump, 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 ba. That's the boy. And she's the girl teasing him. Bump, ba, da, 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 ba. She's teasing him. And that's her melody.
Hmm.
So it started out as incidental music for a play. After the play was over, I decided, I could turn that into a piece for young players. I did the same thing with another excerpt from that play, turned it into Fortress. It was a spot where this military man was coming to look for Don Juan to avenge his sister's honor. So he was very angry. He was looking for Don Juan to either put the sword right through him or force him to marry his sister. All of this. So that's why Fortress is like this. It's like a march, right? He's a military guy, but it's got this like a march with an attitude. It's got that tritone and it's got that anger. So people don't know that about Fortress, that it comes from this play, this production of Don Juan. It was literally 15 seconds of music originally, and so I blew it up into a 5-minute piece.
So cool. Any plans for a third symphony?
Ha! I already have one, but it's for chorus and orchestra.
Okay.
So restate your question. Any plans for a fourth symphony?
Any plans for a fourth symphony?
Possibly, and I'm thinking about something for like either chamber winds or wind ensemble. So but it also could be chamber orchestra. So if and when I do get around to a fourth symphony, I want to think smaller, and we'll see what happens. I would very much like to do it though. I'd like to have at least as many symphonies as Brahms. You know, I'll never catch up to the other. I'll never catch up to David Maslanka or Julie or all these people with 10 symphonies. That's just not going to happen. But maybe I'll have four.
Let's jump in and listen to one of your pieces before we do continue on with the interview. So the first piece we're going to talk about is Earth Song.
Okay.
which there's a version for choir, but there's also a version for band. For people
Right.
who don't know it, can you tell us a little bit about Earth Song?
Sure. Well, also, a lot of people don't, some people don't recognize this. The absolute grandparent of both of those Earth Song arrangements is Sanctuary.
Mhm.
I wrote Sanctuary for Robert Reynolds. It was commissioned by Michigan School Band, Michigan State of Michigan Music Organization, and it's for Bob Reynolds. And then, as soon as I finished, I thought this is screaming for words, and so I extracted a segment from Sanctuary, and then had to create words to fit that pre-existing music. That became Earth Song for choir. And then someone said, "Hey, I heard your choral piece, Earth Song. Could you make a band version of that?" And I said, "Well, there's already a band version, Sanctuary." He said, "No, no, I don't want all that. I just want the Earth Song part." So then I made Earth Song for band, which now is the grandchild of Sanctuary.
In some
What
of
we're
the
going to hear,
in
yeah.
some of the research I was doing, I found that you gave some conducting tips actually for Earth Song. I even wrote
Oh,
them down. That people should float into the dissonance and not have too much of a harsh crescendo so it resonates and it lives in the dissonance.
yeah, absolutely. Another piece of advice, you have to know the words, even if you're doing the instrumental version. It's really important to get a hold of one copy of the choral piece or find the poem that I wrote that I set to the music, because the music and the words now are so intertwined, even though the words came second. Just knowing those words just helps so much, I think. And the same with There Will Be Rest, and even more so with that one, because the words were absolutely first in that one.
And if I'm correct, this is the one that's the octet from London, right? That's the recording we're using.
Yeah. Is that what
Yeah.
you're going to play?
Yeah.
Cool. It's incredible. Yeah.
All right. So here's a couple minutes of Earth Song. Question, Frank, that I've asked a lot of other composers, and they all have different answers, is how you approach the compositional process, sort of from initial idea through you're finished with the piece. What does that look like for you?
Every piece is different. Every piece comes in a different way. I tend not to do a lot of formal planning, whereas a lot of composers I respect and love do. For me, I have to just start writing, and I get lost and I get frustrated, and I think I've got something, and then I realize a few days later it's not working. I put it aside, and just eventually it's like a fog just slowly clears for me, and I start to see something or feel something. The piece at some point has a pulse, has a heartbeat. It's not just little black dots on the page. It becomes a living organism. And that's when the process starts to become more enjoyable for me.
Hmm.
It's really pain. I'll admit it's really painful for me in the beginning. It's just torture for me in the beginning. And a lot of people have said, why don't you do more pre-planning? And, but it just doesn't work for me. I have to go through that sort of torture to find what I'm looking for. And then slowly the music starts to tell me where it wants to go. Once it starts breathing and having that pulse I'm talking about, it starts to suggest to me where it wants to go and what its form is. So for me, the music dictates the form and generates the form rather than form first and then find the music. So there's no one, like take a piece like Lux Perpetua, it all came from just these two chords. I was doing just back and forth. I mean, like a beginner, just a chord and then a chord a third above, rocking. I was just thinking about rocking. The piece is dedicated to these two clarinet players at Baylor University. It's in their memory. They died in an automobile accident, a tragic accident, and they were beloved members of the Baylor University Wind Ensemble. And so I just thought about their parents rocking them as infants. And it's hard to even talk about it because without getting emotional, because I just, as parents, we all know that feeling.
Yeah.
And, to lose your child at any age is just unspeakable, right? And so I was just thinking about that, just rocking. I'm moving my head back and forth on the video here, so you can see the way I was thinking, because I was not just playing the two chords, I was rocking my body. And slowly out of that movement, almost like dance, right? The rocking, a melody just slowly started to flower in the clarinet. It's the two chords in that melody. Da, 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 dee, da, 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 etc. Da, da, da. That melody just slowly flowered out of these two chords. And eventually the chords changed, but it just started with just two chords. Whereas a piece like I don't know, Blue Shades. God, I was all over the place with that piece. I couldn't find that piece. I was late on the commission. I was rarely late on my commissions, but I was a year late on that one. And 30 bands were waiting for that. So that was terrible. But I'm so glad if I just thrown out the piece and met the deadline, nobody would play Blue Shades. It
Yep.
would have been terrible. So it was worth the wait because I finally found it. But I had to go through this torturous journey to find what was finally right in front of my nose. How did it come? For Blue Shades, a lot of that piece came from the eraser. I was putting too many notes in. Like I had the walking bass line, the bass line that accompanies the stand-up clarinet solo. Bum, 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 bum. That ostinato bass line. I was doing that through the whole piece. And it was too dense. It was not allowing any windows to open up for other ideas because it was like people dancing and stepping on each other's toes rather than dancing this wonderful dance where they're giving space to each other and yet still being close, dancing closely. So when I used that eraser and changed that bass line from bum, 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 I changed it to rest, bum, ba, 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 ba. So I stretched it out and I put little rest between it. That allowed all these little windows to happen. It just cleared out the texture. Then I found Blue Shades. So a lot of times I found a piece by accident. That one was with the eraser. Every piece, I could tell you a whole story. We don't have time here for me to do this, but every piece begins differently. And I rarely begin at the beginning of a piece. Usually I just start, as I said, I don't have a form yet. So I don't know if I'm at the beginning yet. I've just got an idea. Slowly that idea becomes a thing. Once it gets, it starts out like this, then once it gets about this long, I don't know, are people seeing this video or are they just hearing us?
The people who are watching are, but a lot are listening
Okay.
only.
So for those of you who can't see, I'm just taking an idea with my hands together and then stretching my hands apart. The idea becomes a thing, a package, if you will, just something that's temporal, that takes up time, temporal space. That's when I start to have something. So yeah, anyhow, every piece would be a different story for you.
You were talking about Lux Perpetua, and that's one of the pieces we're going to listen to as well. So I'd like to go back to that real quick. Um, and I heard in the program notes that you based the two, the young lady and the young gentleman who died, their personalities also were based musically on the piece as well.
Yes, Jack was more introspective, so the outer sections are Jack's music. It's very lyrical and introspective and calm, and the most of the main material comes from that. Whereas Laura was more extroverted and just boisterous and bubbly and outgoing. And so that music in the middle section reflects her, all the bubbly, fast music in the middle. But what happens also, so once I establish her music, I bring Jack's music back in after a while to join her music. And Jack and Laura's music are together in counterpoint. There's still the feeling of the fast music, but there's that slow underpinning of Jack's music underneath it all. And that helps.
Yeah.
And having the two together generates enough friction and tension to allow the music to build to this huge climax, one of the largest and most extended climaxes of all my band music.
Mm.
So that was, in other words, the climax is not just a peak, but it's like a long plateau. And I don't think I could have gotten there if I hadn't put their two musics together in that middle section to create that, because tension is what helps us build to something like that. So anyway, I think the excerpt you're going to play is that middle section, Jack's music, Laura's music with Jack's music coming in, and it builds to the climax.
And
And I think, are we playing?
This
Yeah.
is the Baylor University version, right? Was this
Yes.
the premiere of it that we're
This is
using?
the world premiere.
Yeah. And I just want to mention, when you got a piece that's 12, 13 minutes long, and then we're going to do a 2-minute clip, like I feel bad, like you need to experience the entire piece. Obviously, for the sake of a show, we're going to use a clip of it. So people, if they want to do this piece, go back and listen to all of it. Make sure you check the whole thing out. All right, let's listen to a portion of it. Here's Lux Perpetua. Do you spend valuable time all year correcting your students' hand position instead of focusing on the music? Thumb Gummy solves that. These simple, cost-effective teaching aids fit on trumpets and trombones to guide the right hand into proper playing position, reducing tension, improving form, and giving tactile feedback so students can focus on playing, not adjusting. It's easy to use, comfortable, and designed by teachers and players for beginners as well as older students. Join thousands already seeing the difference, and keep an eye out for our new clarinet thumb rest coming soon. Visit thumbgummy.com to learn more. That's thumbgummy.com. Amano Music is a proud sponsor of the Growing Band Director podcast. If you're a band director looking for a clear path to grow your program, take a look at the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner. It helps you map out your priorities, organize your year, and stay focused on the things that truly move your program forward. Inside the planner, you'll find tools for long-term planning, weekly goal setting, reflection, and building stronger support systems for your students and community. You can find the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner at amanomusic.com. That's AAMANO music.com. And listeners to the Growing Band Director podcast receive a special 10% discount by entering the code GBD10 at checkout. That's GBD and the number 10 at checkout. Austin Custom Brass is a proud sponsor of today's podcast. They can be found online at austincustombrass.biz. The Austin Custom Brass shop is located in Kansas City, Missouri. They're frequent attendees at MEAs around the country, including a TMEA in Texas and Kansas and Missouri. They go to Midwest and Chicago and International Trumpet Guild, and give them a call today at 816-410-0826. If it's anything brass, they have it. There are remarkable resources for all brass players, and they will do POs and work within your budget for your band program to get you what you need for your kids. Band or orchestra director looking to streamline your rehearsals and help your students take ownership of their intonation, you need to know about Tuner Caddy. It was invented by Mark Casperson, a veteran band director with 38 years in the classroom. Like lots of us, he was tired of drop tuners, scattered materials, and constant reminders. So he created a solution, and after 57 prototypes, the Tuner Caddy was born. It's been used by some of the most respected programs in the country. Mouse Middle School, Cooper Junior High School, Arbor Creek and Creek Valley, Rushing Middle School, Stiles and Grisham Middle Schools, and the Henry Middle School Band, which was a 2024 CCC Honor Band of Texas. These aren't just good groups, they're the best of the best. And when they step on stage at Midwest, TMEA, or Music for All, many of them have Tuner Caddy right there with them. It's been used by university music ed professors to help train future teachers because it works. The classic fits most stands and includes a pencil holder. Student Pro is slim, binder ready, and magnetized, and the new tuner metronome combo transposes and has a 6-foot mic, ideal for students and directors alike. You can get them at tunercaddy.com, Music and Arts, Sweetwater, Premier Music Teaching Aids, and local retailers. They even offer grant writing support for educators. Kaiser Productions is honored to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. As a publisher for Ludwig Masters and Southern Music, they uphold a proud tradition of outstanding musicianship. They share your passion for teaching through performance at all levels with music and resources for band and flexible instrumentation. Their catalog has essential literature by Francis Macbeth, James Barnes, and Frederick Fennell, as well as exciting new works, many by composers who've been guests on this very podcast. Whether you're looking for timeless classics, fresh new works, or your next contest piece, look no further than Kaiser Productions at kaiserproductions.com. That's KEISER Productions.com. Frank, what are some other composers that have influenced you along the way? I'm sure it's a huge list, but what are some you want to mention today?
Yes, it is. It has to be for any composer, I think. If we listen to too few composers, our music will end up sounding like them. So we have to be like sponges, soaking up as much as we can. I could go chronologically. I grew up near New Orleans, so my earliest inspiration was this New Orleans style jazz, early traditional jazz. I was 9 years old. I wanted to play trumpet because of that.
Yeah.
Hearing, Louis Armstrong and a clarinetist named Pete Fountain, who nobody from Gen X on knows who he is. And heck, even people my age don't know who he is. But he was a big influence on me when I was young. And then, of course, we grow from that, moving to Texas. And being exposed to this, all this different music. We moved from New Orleans to Dallas. The program in New Orleans was just sort of modest. And it was a really good teacher, Mr. Chimay. He was a double bass player, and he was the band director. He had no support from the school at all. It was a small town in Louisiana. So we weren't playing music that was very inspiring at all. Just wasn't very good. And I was young. I was just starting. We moved to Texas. I was 13, and it was just like this bolt of lightning. I had no idea kids my age could sound that good. And it just lit this fire. It was a culture shock. And I thought, geez, I want to be able to, how do you learn to write music like this? We're playing things like Hindemith. I went from playing this sort of very modest music to suddenly being exposed to Hindemith Symphony, Dahl Sinfonietta, fun things like Rocky Point Holiday of Ron Nelson. This whole world opened up. And I'm about 13, 14, 15 years old. And that's when I started thinking about being a composer. It wasn't just that the kids were playing at this level that shocked me, but the music, the quality of music also inspired me. And so that was an influence. And then if we get to college, we learn this whole other layer of music, right? We learn about all the whole history of music. I think standouts for me were composers like Stravinsky for rhythm. And it's always changing. Benjamin Britten, I love how he was able to create music where pieces where two different musics would happen at the same time. And yet they work so well organically. He was very good at that. Of course, I mean, my favorite symphony is probably Mahler's Fifth Symphony. But I could go on and on. It's just so much music out there from all different periods of time that have influenced me. And also I get influenced by younger composers. I mean, all these young composers out there, some of them my own students that are doing really well right now. And I'm really proud of them and happy that they're writing for band. There's a composer named Ryan Lindveit. He's a fabulous composer. Jen Jolly, she's a former student. Paul Dooley is a former student. He's at Michigan. He's doing really cool stuff. I'm proud of all Roger Zaire. I could go on and on. I'm just proud of them. So, and I learned from them. I learned from what they do. I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, and that's terrible, but because there are so many now.
Well, you took away one of my questions. I was going to ask you that, and you've already answered it. That's fabulous. What are some tips back to the band director side of things on how you break down an existing piece and how it's put together and how that information helps you as you work with the piece as a conductor and during your time with the piece? Maybe some advice that you would give to band directors who need to do the same thing on the pieces that they're pulling out.
Wow. So breaking down a piece, if that was your word.
Yeah.
I guess every conductor has to find their way to do that. So let me preface this by saying some conductors, I saw a video once of George Schulte. It was on PBS, and they were asking him, how do you learn this new score? He was premiering a piece by Lutoslawski that they had commissioned. And the interviewer asked him, how do you learn this new score that no one's ever heard? And he said, well, I start with page 1. And I don't go to page 2 until I've learned page 1 entirely. Then I go to page 2 and do the same thing. Then I go back, page 1 and 2, I put them together, and so forth. Then page 3. And my own friend, Carl St. Clair, he does that as well with bar 1, then bar 2, then he puts bar 1 and 2 together, then he goes to bar 3. So that's great. And then most conductors are probably more general to specific, the opposite, right? Where they're going through. And I'm more that way. I go through the whole piece, and I, of course, want to look for the different major sections. But then the big thing for me is the phrase structure. I have to go through and do all the phrase structure. That helps me to memorize very quickly and internalize what the piece is about. Once I get that phrase structure, I really start to learn it. So that's been a huge thing for me. One cool thing that I like that Alan McMurray does, and I do sometimes as well because I really like it. I don't do it through a whole score, but I do it in certain key moments. Everything that is, if you associate energy with red and so associate calming of energy with blue, that's a pretty representative thing, right? If we think of red, we think hot, right?
Sure.
And we think blue, cool. He will use his red pencil to mark things that are hot or increasing in heat, like crescendos, accelerandos, rising lines, increasing tempo, and things that get blue markings are things that are doing the opposite, retardandos, slowing down, diminuendos, music that's descending, calming. So as soon as you see that, when you turn the page and you see that red there, but you may see blue on the same page down here, you are able to see the relationships of the different instruments on the same page. So that's another useful thing that I've found to be very useful. I don't do it all the time, but sometimes it's very useful. But I think it's really important that you don't have to conduct without the score, but you have to learn the score so that you could do that you don't really need it because it's got to be internalized. So then you could spend more time looking at the players and not just looking at the music. You have to be able to do that.
And you also hear better.
You hear better because you're not distracted by the eyes. And back to that, what is our main goal as conductors again? We talked about it, is to keep the players inspired, to be the music, so you keep them inspired. You'll inspire the players more when you are looking. By the time a piece is finished, you should have looked at. hope that I've looked at almost every single individual in the ensemble. And it's not just to, you know, to it's not just to look at them for looking at them's sake. It's because the music, if it's good music, it demands that we do that. So I think it's really important that when you don't have the score, looking at the score all the time, when you're not looking at it, you're able to spend more time looking up at individuals. One of the things I say, how to become a really good band director, one step, don't conduct a band. You conduct individuals.
Mm. I think one of the messages about score study, because to be honest, I think there are band directors who don't make the time for the score study.
Yeah.
I mean, even at the most basic level, I think from somebody who lives school band every day, a lot of it is I went to school for music, and music was the first passion, and then people have kind of come after that. But when we're teaching full time, it's about at 12:08 I use the bathroom, and at 12:12 I can eat my sandwich, and then at 1:10 that's, I mean, it's like the monotony of it, and whatever issues you're seeing, you're going to see tomorrow and the next day and the next day, so it can very easily kind of break you down, right? And
Yeah.
come into this mundane, and I'm not trying to paint a bad light on the profession, but anybody who does it like knows that, okay, period 6 is coming in and they've got that tuba section again. All right, here I can get up for it. And what I find that when I study the music, for example, when I was doing when we did Down a Country Lane by Copeland, like finding the stuff in there that's so exciting allowed me to have more passion when I was teaching it to the students, and gave me
Yeah.
energy, and then help the students like that more in turn.
Yes. Boy, well said. And you're reminding me of the gratitude we all feel or should feel to for music educators, all of us, because what you guys do, what you do is so important, far more important than what I do. I mean, I give you something that helps you do your job. By giving you this music, it helps you do this amazing thing. You are changing kids' lives when you do that. So yeah, you're talking about the bell ringing, and now you've got a lunch break, and now, yeah, all of that's true. But then when you're on that podium, it comes back to just you and the music and those students that you're working with. Everything else should get shut out, right? And it's just that, because that is the sacred thing that you do. You can change lives. You save lives. I know that.
Yep.
Music educators literally save lives. They give kids a reason to be proud of themselves and to feel good about themselves. And we need that, all of us as human beings. And you, music educators, I'm so grateful to you for what you do. And so, yeah, you do have to constantly remind yourself, why did I get into music in the first place? Yep, the bell's ringing. Yes, I got lunch, all these things you said, but come back to that. Take a deep breath and go, why did I get into this in the first place? Come back to what you just said. I got into music for the love of music, the beauty of it, the fact that we can make music as human beings together. We always have to come back to that. And we have to remind the students why they got into music in the first place as well. We remind them because it's difficult. They're always being challenged. We have to remind them of that joy and that beauty. It takes us to this place that words can't touch. That's something I say all the time. Takes us to a place that words can't touch, and a place that transcends words. It takes us to these, it helps us understand emotions for which we have no words. And that's what's so beautiful about music.
Before I ask you another question, Frank, I will kind of want to start talking about one of the pieces we're going to feature as well, called Rest.
Yeah.
And I shared with you, first, if you could share a little bit about the background behind Rest, and then I want to share why it's been tough for me to deal with the piece and all that, and then we're going to listen to some of it.
Sure. Well, originally for chorus, it was commissioned by the Pacific Chorale and is based on a poem by Sarah Teasdale. There Will Be Rest. And it's in memory of a little boy, the son of one of my best friends, Carl St. Clair, the conductor, longtime conductor of the Pacific Symphony. He's now the conductor of the Bangkok Symphony, and someone I've known my entire adult life. And I just love him, and he lost his son. And I wanted to do something to help my friend and his wife who were going through this unspeakable pain and grief. And again, music, this is what music can do, right? It takes us to a place that tangible things can't go to. You can buy gifts, you can do all kinds of things to comfort people, but music can comfort in a way that is very unique, and it's all its own. And so I wanted to do something And so I dedicated it to them, to his memory, the little boy's memory. His name is Cole St. Clair. So it's a very personal piece for that
Yeah.
reason. It's going to be forever joined at the hip of that little boy, of his memory. And so it's a really special, has a special place in my heart always. So skip ahead a few years, I got a call from Russ Mickelson at Ohio State. His father passed away. He asked if I would write a wind band version of that. And so I first thought, well, will this work? And how will I make this work? And as I was, I accepted the commission. I thought this could be something that will work. But without the words, I need something else to give it its own identity. And so I extended the climax. I talked earlier about the plateau climax in Lux. Same thing here in There Will Be Rest. The plateau is not as long, but it is a plateau. Whereas in the choral version, it is a peak and it comes down. In the band version, I get to that peak and I stay there and I extend out the climax and then come back down. So that's one difference between the choral version and the band version.
And
And it
and
just needed it.
and I think the version that you sent me was the one of you conducting it. It's an all state, right? Was it Missouri? Mm.
Oh no, that's somewhere. It's just young kids in Mississippi.
Mississippi. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Mississippi honor band, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Started with an M. I knew that. Yeah, and for me, when I first saw it, my son was 2. And I think I told you off air, like I got through the first 8 measures and had to stop it. I was like, because I knew that if I was going to do this with my students for the next 2.5 months, that I was going to live with it. And I said, to be honest, at this stage in my life, I can't handle that emotionally. I'm hoping to be able to come back to it someday. So very powerful piece, even though I haven't performed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it
Thanks
spoke
so
to me
much.
really, really quickly. All right, let's listen to it. And we're going to listen to that climactic ending you talked about, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to watch Frank conduct, jump on YouTube and you can see it. Here's the ending of Rest. Frank, besides just becoming better as a composer, because I think everybody with time hopefully becomes better. How else has your music changed over your composition career, or do you feel like it's hasn't changed?
Well, there are things that I'm aware of and things I'm not aware of. I mean, I'm certainly the obvious thing. When I was a student, I mean, back in my day, I was learning in the 70s. I was learning to compose in the 70s and into the 80s, and there was still a huge 12-tone music, atonal music was a big part of the curriculum when I first started. And so I was writing mostly non-tonal music
Hmm.
in the early days. So that's the obvious change, right? Because I'm certainly a tonal composer now. I'm glad I learned back then from those things, because you can learn from that music even if you end up rejecting that music. You can learn so much from it. So I'm glad I was able to take from that. How has it evolved over the years? I mean, the big evolution is when I got out of school and I got back to who I am, not having no more teachers, nobody looking over my shoulder helping me, which I needed. Now I'm on my own. You have to find who you are. You have to dig deeply and find out who you are. And so that's what affected the biggest part of my evolution is coming back. I'm just this guy from the South who played the trumpet and wanted to write music. And I came back to that. And my jazz roots mixing with the classical, all of that kind of came back together after I left school. And so that's the biggest, most noticeable part of my evolution. How other things have, like, how have I gone from blue shades to fantastic dreams? That's more difficult for me to articulate. I don't know. It's different, I'm sure. I mean, the process is different. But when I back in the blue shades days, everything was by hand. We did everything by hand, pencil, and then inked it and all of that. Now we've got, I've got Sibelius, others people use Dorico, whatever. It changes the way we compose over time. Even though I still sketch by hand, then put it in the computer. It's still different than it was before
Hmm.
the softwares came along. But it's hard for me to articulate how I've evolved from 20 years ago to now. I can easily talk about my student days to now, but not so much afterwards.
In
I'll leave
passing,
that to someone else. I'll leave that to someone else to figure out.
there's a piece I want to mention of yours that we're not really discussing at all, but I think people should do if they have a grade three band and they're looking for one of your pieces to do. I love Abracadabra. I've always loved Abracadabra. The end, the puff of smoke is awesome. So I'll just say that for anybody with a grade three band, check out Abracadabra. Frank, who's a composer or what's a piece that you feel like doesn't get played as much as you think it should or you want to highlight that's not of your own?
Well, that you're making me think of my own high school days. The pieces we did. I mean, we did. I remember we did Charles Ives' Variations on America, and how much that impacted me. It taught me a lot about Charles Ives. It taught me a lot about what theme and variations is. I loved it, and that trumpet solo in the middle, I just loved that too. So that was a big influence on my 15-year-old self. And nobody plays that anymore, or hardly anyone. You see
Yeah.
it very rarely. So that's one. Um, you know, uh, who else comes to mind? That's one. Uh, Thinking of living composers as well. Um, I don't know. John Mackey's Red Line Tango. I hear less of that, but I really like that piece. And maybe it's been overshadowed, but he's written so much music since that time, really good music, like Wine Dark Sea and Frozen Cathedral, all that incredible stuff he's done. It's slightly overshadowed Red Line Tango, and I really, really like that one.
What is it about
So
Red
that's
Line Tango that you like so much?
he just really captured the essence of a tango, but in a way that no one else had before, in a way that still says this is John Mackey. So
Love
yeah.
it. Well, Frank, thank you so much for being here. We're going to end with talking about one of your newer pieces as well, called Fantastic Dreams, a four movement piece that turns out you wrote in the woods of New Hampshire, right up in my neck of the woods. But we're going to listen to part of the fourth movement, I believe. And it's kind of has
Oh yeah,
the Hollywood ending, right? Is
that's right.
what I can tell. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So this Fantastic Dreams is four movements or four dreamscapes. I wrote it at a place called the McDowell Colony.
Were these actual
That's on,
dreams that you had?
um, one of them is.
Okay.
The others I just imagined. I just made up these dreams.
Okay.
Um, but it was inspired by my surroundings. I wrote it at a place called the McDowell Colony. It's an artist colony where poets and playwrights, composers, writers, sculptors, painters, artists of all kinds come. And each of us is given a cabin in the woods, about 25 of us at any given time. And so you've got this incredible seclusion all day to just think and dream. And then you have the opposite, social release at night. We all meet together for dinner at night, talk about our day, or rent a movie and watch a movie together, whatever. You just hang out. But all day long, you're isolated. You're just secluded in your cabin with a grand piano and a bed and couple of desks, and you just do your thing. So I was inspired by this place where there are wild deer and just forests, hillsides, and just the beauty of New Hampshire, New England countryside. And wild deer, wild turkeys, eagles flying overhead, just the beauty of nature. So the first movement is just imagining a dream where you're dancing with all these different muses. The second movement is really special, and it's where I was inspired by my morning walks from my cabin, often to breakfast. Just the rhythm of me walking is in that second movement. The third movement is we've all had dreams of flying, right? Often anxiety dreams that we can fly. And so it's called Magic Carpet. It's just it's a 2-minute scherzo that's just in flight. And then the fourth movement, I live in LA, so I thought I needed something to tip my hat to that connection. So it's called LA Noir. And it's a dream. Imagine that you're in one of these old Hollywood film noir movies, black and white detective film noir movies. Maybe it's a Bogart movie, or maybe something like Chinatown, more recent. Just that feeling, though. And I imagined a dream of a climax of one of those film noir movies where someone's being chased. The bad guy's being chased by the police, or maybe the police are being chased by the bad guy. Who knows? There's a detective being chased. So just the idea of the chase scene. So it's got this just manic chase-like energy, but also very black and white. It's dark. It's like this dark driving chase scene. So it was fun, really fun to write this piece.
And this is a performance by San Diego State University. Is that correct?
They commissioned it, yes, and it's the world premiere. And I think we're playing just the last 2.5 minutes of the whole piece, the chase.
Beautiful. So we're going to listen to Fantastic Dreams, just the end. Frank, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.